go ahead and get started. Welcome to Dueling Sorcerers. My name is Stacy Broadwell, and I will be your host. And today we have some amazing sorcerers who are joining us, who are going to show us there's more than one way to source talent. And with us is Shannon Kelly. Hello, welcome to the show.
Hey, y'all.
And Sarah Goldberg, welcome to the show. Returning sorcerer.
Yes, thank you for having me back.
So, Shannon, this is your first time joining us in the show.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Cool. So, actually, I used to work with Sarah about a year ago. So I am a recruiter with BenchPrep. We are a Chicago-based software company in the edtech space, focusing on exam preparation. So I full cycle recruiting on a lot of things, a lot of stuff for our sales team and some of our other operations teams internally. Though my background before that is in tech sourcing.
Very cool. Okay, well, welcome to the show. And Sarah, for those of you who don't know who Sarah Goldberg is, let's hear a little bit about what makes you so amazing.
It's overselling it a little bit. So my name is Sarah. I work at a tech recruiting firm called Objective Paradigm. We're a boutique firm based in Chicago, but we source everywhere. And I work, we do consulting work, so I will work directly with clients, sourcing for them, integrating with their systems. And mostly focused on tech sourcing, as Shannon mentioned. And very excited to be here and be back.
Well, welcome friends and welcome audience members. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. What are we going to be sourcing for today?
So today we're going to be talking about sales, business development, like that whole world. So we're going to be going back and forth, sharing our screens, and just doing some live searches on how to find both experienced and entry-level sales folks. They're just such a tricky bunch of folks to reach out to.
Yeah, I mean, as a software as a service company, we are hiring salespeople almost constantly, either business development folks who are, for us, are more entry-level role, or like more experienced enterprise account executives. So that's what Sarah and I are kind of going to spend our time working on today.
Before we get started, may I ask a question? Because
For sure.
And this is in regards to like high volume, high turnover type of roles versus like the software engineering or data, which can be a little bit more, I feel like, tailored in your outreach. Do you tend to use templates in your outreach when you're speaking to these like high volume, high turnover, mass quantity sort of positions?
Yeah. So I'm lucky in that our sales team is not a very high turnover team. But that being said, I do start with the template, and then I make a point of customizing it to what they're looking for. We are thankfully, like, our volume is such where it's kind of like in between of like, we want several at a time to start, but we're not looking for like 20 people constantly. It's more like, a class of 5 at a time. So my volume doesn't get nuts. I know some people are in the world where it does, but we're looking especially for people who are from their background. We see some tenure. We see them wanting to like stay for a little while too.
Awesome. And if anybody has questions, or if maybe you want them to source some of your roles, or you have particulars that maybe you want them to look for, put it in the chat, put it in the Facebook Live, and we'll throw that out and see what we come up with. Okay, friends, without further ado, I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Shannon, do you want to share your screen first?
Whatever works. Yeah, where do we want to, let's get started with, I guess probably the most helpful thing to get started with would be kind of like an overview of what we're even talking about in terms of like the universe of sales roles. So in terms of like all the different job titles that are out there and what we're looking for. So I guess to kind of start there a little bit, before I even share my screen, companies do it a little bit differently, each company, but kind of the standard way that it tends to break down is like a business development representative or a sales development representative, kind of same thing, as kind of like the entry level kind of sales role. And that's more focused on prospecting new leads and setting appointments for a salesperson to take further than that. And then how far they go in that process kind of depends company to company, but that's kind of a standard like BDR, SDR is like an entry-level salesperson. And then from there, kind of growing into an account executive. which is focused on hunting new business. And then kind of the other side of that, what we're not necessarily looking for today is like an account manager who is more focused on the process of like once a sale is closed, you know, keeping that relationship strong. Kind of the stereotype of the buzz phrase, the cliche is like a hunter versus a farmer. So we're focusing on the hunter side of things today. You want to add anything to that, Sarah?
No, just that a lot of these things, I feel like every single company is going to call it something different. It's kind of like, are you looking for a software engineer or a software developer, account manager, account executive, client executive? There's all sorts of different keywords that will pop in. Sometimes you gotta cast a broad net in terms of keywords while still sort of looking at like, what is the person we're looking for actually doing and how do they talk about actually doing that work? And less focused on like what their exact title acronym might be.
Awesome. Yeah. Cool. All right, I'm gonna share my Google. So I mean, oops, let me stop 1 second. No, yeah, I'm good. Okay, just making sure that in all of my windows and in all of my things, I'm sharing the right one. Everybody see Google?
Yep.
Sarah, do you? Okay, cool. Just making sure. Yeah, the Zoom fear is real. So an easy way to start with everything sourcing is LinkedIn, our LinkedIn. I don't have Recruiter anymore because COVID happened. So I'm back to regular good old Google X-ray searching my LinkedIn, which so far is totally fine.
Can you talk for like 1 second? What does the site operator do right there? I know you already have that built up.
Cool. Yeah. So site operator specifically limits our Google search to like things that are on the site that you put after the operator. So in this case, we're going to start with LinkedIn. We're going to do linkedin.com. And then if you go to like a LinkedIn profile, like I just happen to have, let's just open me for funsies. There's that linkedin.com/in is after everybody's profile. That's kind of what's in the URL. So if we're searching anything that is in this site of linkedin.com/in, what we're going to find is going to be a profile. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Cool. So if we're starting there, then we want to add our Boolean keywords of what we are looking for in sales. So I'm going to start out. Sarah is going to go into some more about how we would look for some of the more experienced sales folks, but I'm going to start with if I wanted to search for just some kind of more entry-level people who might be interested in a business development role. I mean, an obvious search would just be like people who are doing it now and maybe have only been doing it for like a year. That would be one option. We also are pretty open to entry-level folks in terms of our business development folks at Bench Prep. So that's an option as well. But I mean, to start super basic, for sales development. So right now I'm just looking for people who are in Chicago and have done business development or sales development and for a software as a service product. And now I'm already seeing an issue with that in that I'm getting a bunch of people who have a lot more experience than I'm looking for. So I'm going to add not or vice president or lead, and see if I can cut out some of that and start looking at some newer, some more junior folks. Hey Sarah, why am I still getting vice presidents?
So I think you're still getting vice president because Google is very weird and very annoying and doesn't do well with parentheses. So I usually do not each term instead of trying to do, I think you probably could do some like fancy, it's almost like Boolean algebra, where you use not with parentheses, but I think it's probably that. I also usually put the nots at the end of it, but honestly, I don't know if where the not is in the search actually makes a difference.
Well, let's see. This is why we are
Yeah.
doing this live. That's much better. Okay.
Yes, there we go.
Cool. We're still getting some founders and some seniors, but that's okay. Oh, I didn't do not senior, so that would be why. So let's see. Business development representative at Origami Risk, business development at Salesforce, business development executive.
Oh.
This is actually like someone that a little more senior experience than I would necessarily, this is more like doing the role that I would want them to be moving into, but that's the kind of profile that I'm looking at. And these give us some ideas of where to kind of go if we were looking for someone who was a little more junior than this person. So like I like to see people who've moved from some kind of other sales thing. Like he was sales at a car dealership. I've seen sales in, insurance, retail sales where they're like, they've done that and they want to move into something that's more business to business. Those are some starting points. Also, like if he'd done an internship in sales, something like that, those would be kind of like the background that I might look at for kind of a more junior person. So like this is a good example of someone also who's like pretty newer to sales as well. So these are actually some good profiles of like a more experienced sales development, business development representative.
So would you dig in more to the Sales Enablement Society? Because that seems like it's some kind of volunteer organization.
Yeah, I was just looking at that too. So this is giving us something to check out as well. A volunteer organization focused on elevating the role of sales enablement in organizations nationwide. It's like one of the many rabbit holes that we can dive down.
Sometimes that's like the best way to learn stuff, because I don't know, sometimes with Boolean searches, you're relying so much on people knowing the words to put on their profile that we're going to start looking for. Whereas once you find something like this, where you're like, oh, you'd probably only be involved with this if you want to volunteer more about teaching people sales enablement, where you might like scroll through people who are mentioning it or are listed as employees for volunteer experience.
Yeah. Cool. So should I spend some time on this? Do you want to switch gears to your screen? What makes sense with this time?
Let me start sharing mine.
Cool.
Stop, and I will talk a little bit about some X-ray searches. And while I prepare to do this search.
So I just saw a question here on the chat while you're pulling up some stuff, which I like. Is there a difference between doing Boolean searches on Google versus doing it directly in LinkedIn? So directly in LinkedIn, I feel like I don't have the search doesn't work as well in LinkedIn. Sarah, what's your experience been like with that?
So if you don't pay for LinkedIn Recruiter, you will actually hit the search limit on LinkedIn. Even if it works well, at least the volume of searches that I do, you'll just like hit that limit.
You also have a limit in terms of like the degree of connection that will come up, and then the information they'll give you on that person. Whereas if you find their profile on Google, you don't run up against the same like blocking of that, where they won't show you like third degree connections at a certain point.
Yeah. Oh man, you're gonna see some previews for what we're doing later.
And there was another question too. Also, is there a way to search on Google where you filter candidates that are in your location/country, filtering out anyone international?
Awesome. I can do that. So the way to do it for location, and I do want to caveat that LinkedIn is making some changes. Including those changes are, instead of saying that you live in the greater Chicago area, they want you to say that you live exactly where you live. And somehow thinks that I live in DuPage County. I know we have a couple of Chicago locals on this chat right now. I do not live in DuPage. I live in the city proper. So I think that is going to change this very, very soon. So apologies in advance. I'm giving you advice that's probably going to be obsolete. But for now, I do like to put in keywords like greater Chicago area. And the thing about that and the thing that sort of makes it a little bit tricky for LinkedIn is you need to figure out how they talk about locations, and like how, if you see it like greater Chicago areas where someone's probably going to talk about where they live or where they have previously lived and might be interested in either working remotely or in the future beautiful world where we can return to the office safely, potentially relocating. So I wouldn't necessarily pitch too many people on relocating right now. That said, maybe this is the time to pull people who might have left Chicago for places that are currently literally on fire. But still not necessarily what we want to think about right this second. So I want to do site linkedin.com/in, greater Chicago area. I want to actually use this to talk about how you might find more experienced people. So I am going to do that account executive search. You could also do account executive or client executive. This is a trick that I learned from Jan Tegzi, is using a pipe operator instead of or. The fewer things you need to type, the better. I'm a very lazy sourcer sometimes. Something like that, so by or string. And then what I want to add in is, this works mostly with senior people who are experienced. I want to think like, how would someone talk about being good at their job? In sales, it's easy. They're going to talk about hitting or exceeding quotas. They're going to talk about winning President's Club, other awards. You find someone who's like, I'm really good at sales. They want to talk about, I'm really good at sales. So in this case, I'm just going to search for the word quota. I put scare quotes around literally everything in my search, because if you don't Google decides that they know what you want more than you know what you want.
Yeah, that's true.
with phrases, you need it just to say like, look at all three of these words together. But even with single word keywords, like if you want to say, okay, give me something quota or something similar to quota, great, I'll look at it. But most of the time, Google thinks you want one thing, you actually want something else. So I'm always really cautious with that. And this already gave me 38,000 results. I do want to share something that's kind of new that Irina Shmeva posted that I think is just awesome, is the open to work hashtag. I think it's with quotations. Nope, not with quotations. Like I said, we're doing it live. But the open to work hashtag, now that LinkedIn is like making it a thing, is actually something that you can put into your search. So again, huge credit to Irina, I love her. But that's something that you can use to narrow down your search. So is
it open to work on LinkedIn? I Indeed was pushing like ready to work, which I feel like sounds a little sillier even than open to work does. But I've seen both of those, like people put on resumes to try to signal their, off.
LinkedIn, open to work is that like green circle.
Okay, yep.
I'm going to be real honest. I love Indeed, but they don't always love working with staffing companies, so I don't do too much sourcing on Indeed. No offense if there are any like Indeed alumni or Indeed recruiters here. It's a great platform, just not always great for an agency. So I'm going to look through this person. So account executive at Blue Crew, 8 years of experience, 5 leading a team. I think we're going to get a lot of staffing in this. We've got sales from headhunting and K4s. Blue Crew is probably also a recruiting firm. But I feel like recruiting and sales, in addition to like business development for recruiting firms, which is very, very similar.
There's an overlap there. I would definitely, depending on the role, be open to hiring a recruiter for sales. I mean, unless depending on how experienced of software sales you're looking for. Like I do software sales roles, so like typically we're looking for a more senior account executive, we're looking for like some solid years of experience doing specifically software sales. But for like a more entry level role, super open to a recruiter who wants to move into sales. So that's something I would look at too.
Nice.
My dog is wandering around in the background.
Hi Sophie.
Bye, Sophie.
My cat thankfully is sleeping. He's hiding in my room, but I checked on him before this and he was completely stretched out doing like cat yoga. It was adorable. So let's look at one more person, just sort of showing that I think these are all people that I would probably reach out to if I had an experienced role. especially someone who is open. And if they're open, honestly, you can probably just send a connection request until you get locked out. I guess we didn't really pre-plan talking about finding contact info. You can find a lot just with Google, but oh man, my Zoom is hiding up right where all my extensions are. But this is the Loxo extension. It is the ATS. I think there's a paid version, and if you pay for it, you can do some really cool stuff. But totally for free, you can actually do a contact info lookup. I unfortunately need to log in because I forgot to do that before we started. But when you're screen sharing next, I'll log in, and we can use it as an example for the next search that we run. Just so we can show how that works. But honestly, if people are already open to work and they're open, I probably would just send a connection request. You get, I think, 300 characters to say, hey, I'm hiring sales folks. You don't need to be more detailed than that. And I would probably start there instead of spending too much time hunting for an email. Awesome. And then so I put quota. You could also put something like President's Club or other similar, I was like, why do we still only have 28 people? And I realized it's because we have this, and I just screwed up. I repeated something a lot too. Awesome. But that's sort of the basics of Google search. Oh, and then one other thing that I want to talk about is we talked about how limiting it just to people who are in your country. This works less well if you're searching in the U.S. for someone else in the U.S. But if you are looking for someone who's overseas, you can look up their country code. I was just talking with Katrina Collier about this. So if you're searching for someone who lives in the UK, you say uk.linkedin.com/in, because it's just that's where and you can look up a master list of 2-letter country codes. But here you'll get people who live in the UK. That's just how LinkedIn uses. That's how LinkedIn identifies people in different countries. It works less well with US because unfortunately our URLs for whatever reason don't start with us.linkedin.com/in. Awesome. So Shannon, do you want to take over and do our next topic?
Yeah. So there was one other question, Sarah, about how the open to work stuff was showing up on the profile. I know the people who were in your search didn't necessarily, the ones who pulled up, have that green banner on their profile. I mean, that's more just connected to if they choose to update their profiles with that. So they might have it somewhere in their profile and we just didn't scroll past it.
Yeah.
So that was the question that came up, was who doesn't have, some of those people didn't seem to have that on their profile.
Yeah, I think also what might have happened is they had open to work and then probably turned it off. Yeah, because none of these have the green circle. But they did have, they had it on a keyword somewhere, or else they were just showing up. Yeah, I don't know. That got me. It could also be, honestly, so when you're searching, you're not searching, or when you're using Google to search, you're not searching what's on a page right this second. You're searching what's on a page the last time Google scraped and indexed and said, hey, this is the contents of this page. So if someone had been open to work and turned it off, or if it only stays for a certain number of days before being refreshed, that wouldn't necessarily show up.
Yeah, David Galley also had a question about searching for farmers as opposed to hunters. And I mean, same kind of thing about thinking about how they would talk about their accomplishments on LinkedIn. Just some things that came up off the top of my head. So well as the sales people who are more focused on new business, they're going to be talking about new logos or quota, attainment to quota, over 100% quota attainment, President's Club, et cetera.
Yeah.
Some of the account managers definitely still have those as their compensation and will still be talking about where they are versus their quota. Another thing is that at least some of those account managers are also accountable for like upsells or renewals too. So it's like those might be keywords to look, like upsold, X%, X dollar value into this account, or things like that might be ways to think about that.
Yeah, I think you could also think for keywords, like people would talk about wallet share, where sort of, I mean, a lot of recruiters have probably had these conversations, but ways of thinking of how you're growing the business, like how you're growing the business, how you're growing like the portion of the business that goes to you instead of your competitors. So I would definitely also consider those keywords for someone who's a farmer. Or maybe NPS, if we're moving more from farmers to like account managers and people who are keeping their clients happy. I've never heard the term wallet.
I hadn't heard it before either. That's a new one to me too.
Now I feel like I'm revealing OP secrets. I feel like that's something we talk about a lot.
Interesting.
When we're talking about clients. But yeah, where it's how much of what people are paying agencies are they paying us versus how are they paying competitors.
Interesting. I mean, it makes sense as a metric for sure. I just don't know how it would show up on a profile, but it's an interesting thought. I agree. The evolution of jargon fascinates me too.
Me too.
So I can share again if you want me to. So one other thing that Sarah and I were talking about wanting to cover when we were talking about what we wanted to make sure we covered today, is another good way, whether you do it with a LinkedIn search or whether you do it with another kind of search to get people and to get their resumes and things like that, is to do an image search on Google. So I haven't changed what I had open here. I just clicked over to images, but I'll play with my actual string here in a minute. But you can actually set up Google to show you. It's going to take me a minute to get to the right page in Google. You can set up Google to show you profile pictures, like pictures of people. Advanced search, that's what I want. And then you can go to the advanced search section for Google Images, and then you can narrow your results by any kind of thing that you want within like the kind of image it'll pull up. You could do sizes, things like that. But the one that's really cool is type of images, and you can actually select face. And so then it will do only like pictures of people's faces. So here you can see it's pulling up pretty much everybody's LinkedIn photo headshot, and specifically starting there. And what I like to do with this, which is super helpful, is if I have a really solid pipeline of people, like one thing we always want to make sure that we're doing is diversifying the pool of candidates that we're talking to. So like I get a lot of inbound sales applicants, but there might be all kind of similar kinds of people. And so like, I'm obviously like making judgments about people, what they look like, to like guess like, their, for example, like racial or ethnic background or something like that. So that's like, it's not a perfect science by any means and might not reflect how someone self-identifies. So you can get a little, that's not perfect, but especially if I'm just thinking about like, who is a business development representative who is not like just another white guy, because that is a very high proportion of people in technology and also people in sales. So that's something I might do with a LinkedIn search like this, of trying to like look at faces and, make some guesses and assumptions about like gender or background or things like that there. Just as a supplement for my search, whether that's searching LinkedIn or if that's just searching Google in general. But so once you've gone into settings and gone into that advanced search and said search faces, that will actually start showing here in this drop down of type. But you have to like go in and find it. See, and then now it goes away. So you have to go in and find it in advanced search first. For some reason, it doesn't like to just stay there. So anything else you want to talk about there, Sarah?
So sometimes you can use an image search to search for like pictures of resumes. That I tried to do that last week and it was not working for me. So I don't want to. So this is, I think, an example of how it sometimes works and how it sometimes doesn't work. And I also think that SlideShare used to be owned by LinkedIn, and used to be like if someone uploaded their resume to LinkedIn, they were uploading it as a SlideShare file. They were just acquired by Scribd, and so I haven't. I know that things are probably changing soon, but I haven't actually played around quite yet with how that works. But you can do that if you set it to look for black and white, where people probably. Yep.
So
there we go.
This did some weird things to my search when I went into that advanced search tab. So be careful with that, folks. But so especially if we do like resume or CV or VTech or we'll just start there. So then you can see we've set it to this black and white image type, and we're going to get a bunch of resumes. We're also going to get a bunch of sample resumes, like this says right here, resume building template. So then if we are doing a search like that, we probably want to start taking out not template, not job post, not sample. And now we're getting a bunch of stuff. So I need to fix the things that Google messed up for me here when I did this. But that's kind of like what you would start to see.
Yeah. Awesome. I think because you still have like.
It's because I still have this like weird.
Yeah.
But I also just like it did something weird with my.
Google wants what it wants.
Yeah, it took away my quotes, so it's messing up my stuff.
Oh, when you went into advanced search, it here are my rules for using quotes. Oh man.
Right. It was just like, this is what I want you to do. So this is interesting. That just gave me a bunch of black and white pictures. But
interesting.
Oh, you know what? Why is there a hyphen there? It just decided to do whatever it wanted, and that is not what we want Google to do. So this is why we put quotes around things, because Google thinks it's smarter than us.
Yep. Oh man,
okay.
I love when this happens. Yeah, we can
move on.
Go down a
the principle still applies, and I will. Yeah. So there we go. I just had too many keywords, and we'll figure it out from there.
Awesome. So if you stop sharing, I think I can start sharing. I want to talk about conferences.
Yeah, let's talk about conferences. So there we go. There's some more like actual real resumes that are resumes. So I will stop sharing so that you can start sharing.
Awesome. Let me hope this shares the screen that I want it to. Let's do this. Can you all see my screen? Awesome. So we're just back right here. Why is this not moving? Sorry. As I talk to myself, I did want to take one quick second and just show Loxo. So for free, it imports people into into your basically like your own private database. But you can also use this find contact information. It doesn't always work. So I think probably about 50% of the time it doesn't get anything, but a lot of times you do get emails and phone numbers, and it is totally free, $0, zero limits. I love them. So that's my one quick little plug. Anyway, so I do want to start talking more about searching for conferences. So this one I really do have to give a lot of credit to Steve Levy, who originally wrote the exact trick that we're looking. But the thing that's really useful for this is looking for, and can you guys see my screen? With a good afternoon, Sarah?
Yes.
Awesome.
Speaking for everyone.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I tried to hide. Awesome. I tried to hide, or the chat box was over a thing that I wanted to look at, so I wound up completely hiding it, so I can't see it right now. Anyways, so Steve pointed this out, but the trick, especially for sales, is you want to think, as you're recruiting sales folks, you want to kind of think like they're thinking, and where are they hanging out? With software engineers, you can see, they're hanging out where the coding is, maybe tech meetups. Salespeople are also kind of doing that, but there's this extra level where salespeople are thinking about who they want to sell to. So we're thinking, okay, great, if I wanted to sell to this group of people, where would I go? And sort of think, where can you find them there? So that's why I kind of, sorry.
Oh no, I just like to speak to that for sure. Like when we're going to conferences, for example, we'll go to like a software like as a software as a service company, we'll send our business development representatives and account executives to a software to like a education conference, for example, as a technology vendor, and things like that. So yeah, that's where they're gonna be going or sponsoring.
And so you can usually find who's sponsoring. You can almost always find exhibitor lists, because that's if you're looking at trade shows, especially like who's exhibiting there, the people who are actually there are probably sales folks, so you can manually kind of just go through and see. Aaron Lentz has a great way of actually breaking into phone apps. I think it would take a full hour just to sort of go into that, so I'm going to show you the easy way. And I'm going to go back up here so you can actually see more of it. So this is, again, got to give credit where it's due to Steve. Sked.com is a conference platform, and if you use in URL directory, you're going to get the attendee list, and we can look for, I'm just going to do really broad sales, and this is the one that I wanted to pick on. I love just picking on recruiters when you're doing this, because I think we all sort of opt in to like, oh yeah, we know our information is everywhere. Probably a lot of the people here have representing technology that does this. So as you can see, you've got a lot of really this is better. I mean, we're finding speakers. So this is specifically the speakers directory. So you're going to get lots of directors and heads. So you can find just account executives for TechRecruit. I'm sure a lot of people on this call are familiar with, and it just links right there. What's also useful about this is once you say, okay, I've proven that this will give me like a person and a picture and a LinkedIn profile, you can sort of take that and build that into your search. So you can search for, you not want to search through the secured link, but you can search just for people who are at specifically this conference. If you want to look at people who are at any conference who's got this like speaker thing, you can put a wildcard here or leave it empty. And then I'm going to look for do sales or account. See just truly pop up.
So you used the wildcard to block out the name of the conference from their URL so you could get any conferences.
Yeah, so this is going to take me people who have some kind of sales or account keyword. You could probably narrow it down a little bit more. So I'm going to try, let's do B2B. B2B is business to business, a little bit different than business to consumer, although like you mentioned previously with the car sales, sometimes you do need you can work with a B2C background. But here you're actually finding, people who are attending sales conferences, and you've got, we can't actually find the VP of marketing and growth, maybe a little bit more senior, but you get like a full name, company, keyword, and pop that into a Google search. Probably will pick up their LinkedIn immediately because there's enough information to get to it. So good. Like looking for, if you're looking for people who have like bios, you're going to skew more senior just because that's the stage in their career where people start speaking.
Can you click back to, so you're specifically searching speakers, so you're searching the in URL as speaker?
Yeah.
Okay.
But let's see. Let me see if we have, actually, yeah, I'm just going to like click through this Flip My Funnel 2018. Sometimes they actually have their directory and it'll have the attendees too. And sometimes attendees will include, okay, so these are all Flip My Funnel 2018. Like all Flip My Funnel 2018. We found like all of their speakers, I guess.
So here's a thought. Because you can also search Sked for sponsors. So it would take a little more digging, but if you're trying to find like people in a specific industry, you could do like, for example, with learning technology, I would want to look at maybe some learning related some like educational technology related conferences, and then I could see who the other sponsors are, and see like what technology companies are showing up as sponsors.
Yeah. So site wildcard.sked.com/directory/sponsors, and this will just give you like a list of lists. And then do edtech, all one word, and see if that gets where we want to go. Okay, awesome. So this way we get sponsors, you can get the exhibitors. These are all, some of these are, well actually I don't know if this like looks like someone's name, no. But you can clear through here, go to attendees, and here, you know, some people have their titles here, so you can also, you can even click through and look for marketing instructor. And then once you're on someone, so here it gets a little bit, here we go. You can see, this looks like the filter by type is going to be the path
what the
that
sessions
are on. Yeah, what the sessions are on. It doesn't look like it's necessarily, yes, this is tech for that. But you can definitely just like play around.
Steve's throwing some good stuff in the chat too. I'm going to call that out.
Thank you. I can't see the chat right now. It's distracting.
I have two screens, so I'm taking advantage. So some good ones for conferences too, like search sales and meet our team at conference.
Oh, that's a good one.
So like we'll be here at, because people put that on their marketing all the time. Like we'll be here at this on Friday, so come say hi at our booth and enter into a drawing for an iPad or like whatever the case may be.
Sometimes people will also share their Calendly. Oh, I will say this. I've had vendors try to just like literally just schedule something on my Calendly. The link is not that hard to find. And with like, as like their first cold outreach, just like put a meeting on my calendar, and it always kind of annoys me. But you can always try to do that. Get super creative.
Another one, just generally, again from Steve, because it's a good one. Searching just the web generally. Sales quote meet our team. So maybe the meet our team page from somebody's company website, for example.
Oh yeah.
Or
you could do. I mean, if we want to do this. Oh yeah, I guess that's gonna be. Oh yeah, meet our team. Toyota. We're gonna get a lot of car sales.
Yeah, we're gonna want to take out some car sales. That was also from car, auto, maybe vehicle. I'm stealing these from Steve too, but they're vehicles.
I mean, and then you can also put in, instead of, actually I think this one was Dave Galley, I think, at a SourceCon session, said like you don't need a not if your ands are specific enough. You can also just put in, we're looking for EdTech B2B. Instead of trying to think of all the different ways of getting rid of, instead of just like excluding every single car you can think of.
Sure.
Look here.
Very true.
And this looks like it's mostly they've got customer support manager, a lot of like developers manager, and then you can always so manager of partnerships, accountant. Should figure that one out.
Accountant, it happens.
But you can also look through just using. I mean, here you're just getting a lot of people who like have come up through sales. We got, I think all 12 of those sales were in like that one person's bio. But you can do a lot of interesting stuff there as well. Although the meet our team might actually bring people who are more experienced, more senior. Awesome. Should we move on to our next?
Yeah. I can throw another one out there. Just a general thing to think about researching when you're researching sales folks. Though we could obviously like keep going with all of these forever and ever, because that's the fun of sourcing. Also, Purple Squirrel Notebook, shout out to oh my gosh, who gave me the Purple Squirrel Notebook? Oh, well. My brain is failing. Another thing that I think about a fair amount when we're talking about especially more entry-level salespeople is there's several different sales boot camps that exist out in the world that are like, a couple week or a week long kickstart to like getting into a business development representative type role. So we could search those, and we could search those either like on someone's profile on LinkedIn, because people list it on LinkedIn. People might list it on their resume, so we could search that as well as a way to narrow this down. We could also just search some of these programs to get a little more information about them. So, like for example, one that I know about is Sales Assembly. They have a Twitter as well, so like people who are following them on Twitter, people who are following them on LinkedIn could be a wormhole to go down. They have events, so looking at who's been to their events could be another wormhole to go down. Same thing, another one is Victory Lap. These are just ones I know about in Chicago because that's where I work. Of course, Victory Lap is going to be challenging because that is just a phrase that exists in the world. But we're loading slowly. But that's an option, so to just look at some of those kind of boot camp programs and try to get a sense of like, who's involved, who's done those as a student, who's an alumni of that program. And then same thing for some of these, like one that I am working on kind of networking into at this point and doing some volunteering with is there's an organization called Rework Chicago that specifically focuses on training for people coming from non-traditional backgrounds on kind of like who are a little more like underrepresented in the technology space, getting training on how to be a BDR or an SDR in a software company to get kind of that first step into like the more corporate like software industry space. So I know that a lot of their instructors are volunteers, for example. So if I'm looking for like a more senior person, I could look on LinkedIn at like who volunteers with them too. And like I know for a fact, just because I've met some of these people, that like some of them are like senior account executives at LinkedIn, for example, or senior account executives at other companies, and they mentor people who are new to sales. So that is another avenue to look specifically for people too. And then you also know that they have some kind of like civic mindset as well, which is kind of cool. So people who are instructors at like a boot camp would be a good thing to look for, as well as people who are like volunteers, or people who are alumni of some of those, some of those sales training programs, especially for like a recent grad entry level role where they might not have a lot of other experience to look for on their resume. That might be something to bubble up.
Yeah, for sure. So we've got 10 minutes left. So I think that I'm going to squeeze in my last one, although I mean I love boot camp, and definitely sometimes when you use it, like I know even just for tech, like IC stars, for things like IT help support, help desk support, I definitely search for their alumni. And then Stacy asked in the chat, curious if there's a place you like to start, LinkedIn, Google, conferences, groups. I mean, I feel like I do go in this order where honestly, I always start in my database because warm leads are better than cold leads. But I think I do like start where it's easier and then move harder. You need to manage time. And if you can find something where it's still easy to search, then you like take the time, find another person.
I do the same thing. I will definitely, after we've gone through, obviously inbound applicants are the easiest place to start, and we know they already want to work here. But same deal. I'll tend to start with LinkedIn, or I'll tend to start with like, X-ray search of LinkedIn first, because like it's a resume. It's the easiest thing to start with, and then go from there, kind of wherever I feel like spiraling off to.
Awesome. And then some other things that came into the chat that went to all panelists instead of all attendees. So Jay, if you want to share these back to all attendees, but switchup.org has a list of boot camps.
What is it?
Switchup.org, all one word.
Good to know. Oh yeah, coding boot camps. I like it.
Yeah, and then he had, there's another one, TechPoint Sales Bootcamp for IT Sales, and
Ooh, okay.
salesbootcamp.com.
TechPoint. I want these just for my life. TechPoint, say again?
TechPoint Sales, it wasn't a website, it was just the name. Oh, the Sales Bootcamp, probably.
Sales Bootcamp. Sweet. Okay. And then what was the other one?
And salesbootcamp.com.
Thank you. I love it.
Awesome.
Good to know. Cool. Also, like a lot of these boot camps, if you're in a, it's less applicable to probably Sarah's life as an agency person, but like if you're in an internal role, like the sales assembly one, for example, like my sales team goes to and partners with and does events about our company with. So then we end up getting a list of like people who have done that boot camp with already contact information to network out to, because they are a graduate of this thing and they're trying to find their next job placement. So like in a longer play, that these are orgs that you want to just kind of hook up with generally to, and that can make your sourcing like really easy because you have kind of a pre-qualified list.
Awesome. Okay, so I think I am next, and we're actually just going to go to my favorite thing. So I think it's not really me presenting. I don't talk about how much I love Meetup. But so this is another thing that I really love is, oh boy, so I don't want to move my, I don't want to move, this is just like so in the way, and it's just stuck there. But anyways, so we've got Meetup. Here I'm already logged in, so you can see it just has like all the things it possibly thinks that I want. And right now it's, 27 things based on interests that I probably set up a very long time ago. But you can either look for sales meetups, then you're likely to find entry-level people who are like you say, real estate training and networking intro online. They're not, and a lot of virtual speed dating, just like a lot of it. That's what Meetup is. But you can also do a site search for meetup.com, and then think not just like, the thing with Meetup is a lot of people get really obsessed with like, okay, I need to find this because I need to find my future events. I need to find where I can go in person or online and be there. But you can also go and think, going back to like why you go to conferences. Salespeople want to be where people who can buy their technology are, so they go to Meetup too. So I'm going to do a Salesforce one, and I'm going to do Chicago, which I definitely remembered to put in. But here you can find, look maybe at the Salesforce developer user group. Say you're trying to find someone who, oh, come on. Some groups stay around and some of them don't. But you can find Salesforce partners, people who are going to sell into Salesforce partners. I know if I were a Salesforce salesperson, I would probably want to be here. So you can hop in here and you can see the two whole people who are there, one organizer and one member. Once you log in, usually, yeah, okay. So like this one specific event had no one showed up, but here we got 10,000 members in Network After Work. And salespeople are absolutely you'll see, so this is actually, it's sorted by relevance, and I have linked my Meetup account with my Facebook account, so it's finding some of my actual Facebook friends. But you can sort by date joined, you can sort by all sorts of things, and you can actually just see everyone who's in a group. This is 10,000 people, so it's too much. We're having this problem where we had one person and then 10,000, and the sweet spot is significantly less than that. But here's where you might look for it and try to page through people who are like there because like, why do you come to a networking event? You're there to recruit someone, you're there to sell to them, you're there because you're looking for a new job, or you're there because it's generally a cool group of people you want to hang out with. But sometimes, those three reasons are a little bit more likely to happen than that last fourth one. So it's definitely like worth going, and then once you have someone's real full name, you can image search, you can view their full profile, and a lot of people will get back to you. You can always, one thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is Meetup has its own messaging platform. It's not ideal, and you can't always send web addresses, but you can always say like, hey, just as you would if you were in person, quick introduction message. You don't need to spend too long, down a rabbit hole looking for an email address, especially if it's just like, hey, you're at this event. I think you're there because of this. And it works out. Let me stop my share.
Well, we have like 3 minutes left, it looks like.
Oh my gosh. Could I use data miner? You can use data miner to pull people from a meetup page.
All in your data miner.
Yeah, well, you could have used ZapInfo until I think Friday. I think is the big day that ZapInfo is shutting down, except on Indeed.
Did not know that.
Oh yeah, Indeed acquired data miner, or not data miner. Oh my gosh, ZapInfo. But you can use you could use data miner and use that to sort of cross-reference. Like Erin shared a spreadsheet that you can use to, like, if you've got people's names, turn them to like do an auto LinkedIn search to sort of speed it up. But if you're doing something like sticking on Meetup, like honestly, and I guess this is because I have like a fairly well set up Meetup account, so it's like, hey, I'm here and I'm a person and I wasn't set up 2 days ago. But you can actually just message people there, so I wouldn't necessarily automate and scrape all of that, because I would spend a lot of time off of a platform just to ultimately go back to it.
See, I'm like the amount of time it would take me to learn how to scrape things,
Oh, no.
the time I could be sourcing.
Can you still hear me? I think you froze.
I hear you.
I hear you.
Hear you.
Oh, awesome. I just got one of those, like, your internet connection is unstable.
I hate that.
Yeah, I guess it's just that when you're like on Meetup, at what point can you like bring in the instant data scraper? Because then it's just scraping the names, and sometimes I think they're just usernames that they have on their profile. They're not like their real names. So maybe that, could be a waste of time. But like going directly and messaging, and but you got to be careful, because if you cut and paste messages in boards, you'll get caught, and then they'll freeze your account and send you a. Not that that's happened to me or anything.
Yeah, I will say I have a pro Meetup account because in my other life, I host, I mean, it hasn't happened because of this pandemic for 6 months. But because I host an event on Meetup, I think they might give me just a little bit more wiggle room.
I'm getting called out by Glenn for saying the amount of time I spend learning to scrape. I'll do it eventually. I'll do it one of these days.
Oh yeah, Glenn is teasing you, isn't he?
See, but I could be learning to make sourdough bread or spinning yarn or, any of the other 10,000 things I like to do. I'll learn it eventually.
This has been a fantastic show. We appreciate you so much for joining us today. Friends, this has been fantastic. If anybody would like to reach out to you, Shannon, where can they find you?
Yeah, so LinkedIn is there. I have a Twitter, but I don't check it that much anymore. But it exists. And I mean, it's Shannon. Oh gosh, what is it? Never mind. Ignore my Twitter because I haven't used it in a really long time. So yeah, LinkedIn is the best way. That's probably the best way.
Yep. And I asked Erin about the shirt, and she said she did design it. I was like, where can we buy one? So we're waiting to find out. But yes, she did design that really cool shirt that you have on.
When she says how to buy one, I'll share it on my LinkedIn because I like this shirt.
Yeah.
It's a good shirt.
I would definitely be so into like buy. I also have that shirt. Do like another round of it. It's a great shirt. Awesome. And then you can find me at Sarah E. Goldberg, all one word, on Twitter and LinkedIn.
Awesome. Thank you so much for all the resources that you provided. I learned so much. I'm going to need to rewatch this show. And for all of those of you who've requested the recording, we put all of our shows on our YouTube channel. So just search TechRecruit, one word, and you'll find all of our videos from our talent analytics, our dual sourcers, our conferences, our TechRecruit conferences, and all of our podcasts. and interviews. So you can find all that there. So we post within the next 72 hours. And Dueling Sorcerers is every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And every Wednesday, we have the Talent Analytics, Talent Intelligence Show. Tomorrow, we have the Chief Data Scientist for JobBite. We're very excited to have him on the show. And I hope you will join us. And for those of you who are needing resources for work and you're in the recruitment industry, we host a show, Talent Acquisition, helping talent acquisition, every Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. For all these shows, you can find the links on our website, techrecruit.io. And we'll look forward to seeing everybody next time. Have a great week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.